Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Melissa Bacon. I am an AmeriCorps member with the Center for Community Engagement at Seattle U. I am an alumni from Seattle U as well. I have with me Dr. William Parkin and Jamie Lee.
Today, Jamie and I are going to talk a little bit about some of the work that we've done together, doing some public safety assessment research in the International District, which is a community that is right up against Seattle University. The university is actually situated by 4 different communities. We're right in the middle of First Hill, the Central District, Capitol Hill, and then the International District. So the university has a really good placement with a lot of communities around us that we have access to. And actually, we were connected to Jamie through the center, and I had done a little bit of public safety research with a neighborhood called Gessler Terrace, which is right by campus. And I'd also go through some programming at the university that was geared towards helping faculty learn how to do service learning projects within the class and partnering with community partners. And the CID and SCID PDA, so Jamie has been in charge, but we're partnering with some other people in the community right now. But looking at doing a public safety survey that SCID PDA developed. And our class, I teach a criminal justice statistics class. Our goal has been to help analyze the data and then report it back to the community partner in a way that is helpful for them. From our perspective, it really helps the students take what they're learning in the class and it is tangible. So they can actually go out, like we go down to the community, Jamie gives us a tour of the International District, talks about public safety issues. And then typically Jamie and several other individuals will come at the end of the course where the students report the data back to them during presentations. For us, it's been a really great experience because it gives students access experiences that they wouldn't get if we were just going through the book and just doing lectures.
I'm Jamie, and I work at SCIPTA, or the Seattle Chinatown International District Preservation Development Authority. For those of you that aren't from Seattle, I do work in the Chinatown International District, which is about 1/4 of a square mile of a business and residential district just south of downtown. Similar to very many other historical Chinatowns across the US, in that we were formed in the early 1900s and continue to exist today. We do have a large residential population of non-English speaking folks and seniors, and we, because of the seniors that live in our neighborhood, have the highest concentration of poverty actually in the Seattle area. So not only do we have, a lot of non-English speaking folks that live there and that own the businesses in the neighborhood, we're also a huge regional draw for the Puget Sound region in terms of folks that want to come to Chinatown or to the International District, just because of the concentration of restaurants and the access to food and certain foods that you couldn't really buy anywhere else. The other thing I will say is that we aren't just a Chinatown. We have cultures that, call that place home, and hence the name Chinatown International District. So there's a little Saigon area in the neighborhood of Japantown, historic Manila town. So it is a couple of different languages that we're dealing with when we're trying to do outreach to the community. My organization has been around for 45 years in the neighborhood, and really our mission is to preserve, promote, and develop the CID really to its most authentic self. So we started working with Dr. Parkin in, I think it was the 2015 to 16 survey that so we've been doing the public safety survey for quite a bit of years, whether it be our organization or another partner organization in the neighborhood. And so it was really important for us to be able to measure the perceptions of safety that we saw. There's the numbers you can get from the police, but then there's really what community members are feeling as they're living, playing, breathing in the district. That survey data very directly helps us advocate for more funding and more support from the city of Seattle. So a lot of our programs get funded through the city, and we have to do different ways in order to basically validate why we need funded for a certain position or for certain work that we do. And so usually what happens is we take that data and it's part of an annual presentation to City Council, Seattle City Council, on the work that we're doing focused on public safety, and it kind of ties in with the police department, things like that. And then it actually results in usually a survey report that's folded into our annual report around the perceptions. So there's two different ways to look at it. There's your perceptions of safety, and then there's, the data that you're getting from 911. We use that stuff directly. It actually directly supports us and to be able to fund positions in people's work. I actually started out my world in the nonprofit sector, working with college students and nonprofits. So I see the importance of having students be able to really be able to have a class where they can have data, but then also, like Dr. Parkins said, be able to get on the bus and go down to the district and really see what it is that they're analyzing. So it's really around perceptions of crime, like, have you witnessed one or have you been the victim of one, but also like, how do you feel going out in the evening? Do you feel that the streets are cleaner? Do you feel that the streets are safer? So it's a little bit of perception. And then we also ask questions about whether or not people called 911 and whether or not they reported it, because lots of folks in the neighborhood, non-English speaking folks, don't feel comfortable calling 911.
I'm going to add on to that, because one thing that we have been able to do, we've been able to pool 911 calls and police reports and map them to the community, so that in addition to giving them an analysis of the survey results, we've also been able to give them an analysis of what's happened in the last year, so the year prior to the survey questions, so that they could then see, well, if we're talking to the Seattle Police Department liaison and they're saying nobody's calling, and that's why there aren't law enforcement officers in the community that are as visible as they might think they should be, they've actually been able to look at the data and say, well, this is what people have been calling for. This is how often they're calling. These are the types of crimes that have been reported. So historically, we've actually broken the class up in two groups, where one group analyzed the survey data and the other group pulled together the policing data from the 911 call data from Seattle and then wrote a report on that.
The other thing I will say that's been really great as a community member is, so this year we got a late start on getting the survey intact because we had some staffing changes, and we normally do it around like February to March. I would print like 500 surveys and hand them out, and that's just not something we can do right now. And Dr. Parkins has been helping us kind of rethink about how we could still do a survey during these times of being stuck at home. And we're even talking about like ways that we can call people and do the survey over the phone. So it's been really nice to like work with a partner that can be flexible in really meeting the needs of community and recognizing that we're all trying to reinvent how we do things right now. And that's been really nice. And I'm hoping that, because I know that it is a good, fruitful experience for students to be able to have the data and like be able to use it in real time. And so hopefully something will come of that. That'll be useful.
A lot of departments, almost all departments, have multiple professors who teach service learning classes. So whether or not they're working with people from the International District or other communities or neighborhoods around the university. But if you're interested in a specific topic or working with a specific community, a lot of times you can reach out to professors or to the center and find opportunities to do that type of work, even if you're not in a class that's doing it. So Jamie bringing up the fact that the timing's a little off right now, so it's not aligning with our quarter exactly as it has in the past. What we'll just do is, once the data is together, I'll find students who are either looking for research experience. A lot of times students look for research experience as a way to have something else on their resume that shows that they're engaged and they're doing more than just classwork. And then also, sometimes students will take research credits. So they could take credits towards graduating that are for research opportunities.
SCIPTA and kind of the CID were part of their Center for Community Services youth initiative. The youth initiative identifies neighborhoods surrounding Seattle University and looks at the impacts that the university has on those communities. And so we are part of the youth initiative. So kind of that opens up a lot of partnership that happens between SU and the CID, really focused on different areas, including small business, education, access for children that live in those neighborhoods to education. We've done a little bit of work around some transportation stuff. So there's the partnership, it shifts and morphs because there are certain things that are just a little bit more important or more on the forefront during different times. There's the way of, participating in a class like this where you are getting to know the community, but a lot of our partner organizations have great opportunities for people to volunteer in their organization. There's a food bank in the neighborhood. CISC, Chinese Information Service Center, has an after-school program. And then we've also had different interns from both Seattle University and University of Washington that have interned for us on the graduate and undergraduate level for anywhere from 6 months to a year. And they can do a wide range of projects. Like we had someone that interned with us to help us rethink kind of our marketing strategy and how we do fundraising in our organization. But then we've also had other interns that help us with our summer events. We are doing events all over the neighborhood because part of our work is really to make the neighborhood a welcoming place and a place where residents can come out and do activities. And so they'll help us, host the events, and sometimes we need help just making a flyer. And then, bilingual students will help us in translating and interpreting things. And so there's a wide range of things that students can get connected. I also truly believe that it's not just my organization that people need to volunteer with. There's tons of organizations in the CID that are doing really great work, and it could just be, whatever fits the interests the best.
So there's a couple ways. One, and talking about working with different communities and working at the elementary school where a lot of people volunteer for Bailey Gatzert. And the idea there is that we're working with communities before there's any problems. So we're working with kids and giving them educational assistance and trying to support the community at large. The criminal justice program does have students who volunteer at the youth jail facility, detention center, which is a couple blocks from campus. We don't typically do that with classes because you have to go through a pretty long vetting process and you have to have a pretty long-term commitment. So it's more than just the 10 weeks of a class.
I currently work at Bailey Gatzert, but we do a lot of work with elementary school students. We do social emotional work with them, as well as academics, to ensure that they're getting their social emotional needs met and they don't get involved in the criminal justice system. I've done a lot of research on the school to prison pipeline, especially my senior year at Seattle U. And so if we can adjust the punishment that is happening within the schools, it'll help decrease the amount of students going through the criminal justice system at a younger age. And that's why I got involved and stayed involved for so long. But it's not criminal justice based work. It's more of an elementary school, middle school, and high school level work that we do.
From the student learning experience, how much doing something that actually can be applied to the real world is so helpful. Because not only is it about, they understand how to do some statistical analyses and present data in a way that hopefully is understandable to an audience. They also get to see everything else they've learned from criminal justice policy, criminal justice theory, all their intro class, how everything else kind of comes together to see how this actually can be applied. And we even spent a class or two going through the survey that you developed and talking about all the questions, what we're trying to measure, how that applies to public safety issues, what you can do with that, and how you can then use that to inform your community, what's going on.
Within the Chinese or the Chinatown side of the neighborhood, there are a couple different dialects that are spoken. The most common one is Cantonese, but that's unfortunately people are saying is a dying dialect, which makes me sad because that's my family's dialect. But Cantonese and then Toisanese and then Mandarin are pretty often spoken. And then there's two different ways to read that, which is simplified Chinese and traditional Chinese. We also have folks in the neighborhood that speak Vietnamese, speak and read Vietnamese. And some folks speak the language but are illiterate in actually reading it. We do have some folks in the neighborhood living there that speak and read Tagalog, which is a Filipino language, as well as a couple of East African languages like Amharic, Tigrinya, and Somali. But the bulk of the population when we do translations is generally traditional Chinese and then Vietnamese. And with us just doing it in 3, it makes our documents really long. And we've been seeing that a lot right now with all of the stuff that we're doing around the relief stuff for the COVID-19. I think with students is really understanding how much language is a barrier and how it can be really putting our communities at a disadvantage. I think for students, recognizing that a lot of this stuff takes time. So like you need time to translate it, you need money to translate things. It needs to be done correctly. If it's technical stuff, you really want to make sure that whoever is interpreting it or translating it knows what they're talking about, because language is a funny thing and it can be misconstrued really quickly. And so I think that's something that's really important for people to understand. For students, I think that for those that don't speak other languages, I actually really only speak English very well. I can speak, not even conversationally, like maybe 2-year-old Chinese, but they need to kind of be aware of that as they're working with communities and just kind of learn a little and like be open to learning how to do that.